Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 250 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game. Are you ready to discover what your Knack for Business truly is? Your hosts are Bernie Fransgrote from Creative Insight and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc. So, what can you expect from the Knack for Business podcast? The aim is to help you find your feet in the business world. Whether you're just starting out or you've been at it for a while, we have something for everyone.
Today's topic is how women are rocking home ownership and what you need to know. A conversation with Single Lady Estates. Our guest today is Bobbie Wasserman from Single Lady Estates. Bobbie is the founder and is deeply committed to empowering women in home ownership. With over 20 years of experience in corporate communications and public affairs, she combines strategic insight with personal advocacy to support women at every stage of their home owner journey, whether buying, selling, or navigating life in between. Her own experience as a plaintiff in a 7-year real estate litigation case, which led to a pivotal law change, gave her a profound understanding of the unique challenges women face in real estate. This fuels her passion for guiding women with confidence and clarity. An award-winning professional, Bobbie's expertise and resilience shine through Single Lady Estates, the first comprehensive home ownership platform designed for women. She holds an MBA in finance from USC and a BA in economics from UCLA. And she's been recognized as a hashtag woman to follow and hashtag woman of influence 2023 honoree. Single Lady Estate is also a 2024 portfolio company in the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator Founders Program. Bobbie, welcome. And do you have a favorite quote or saying, ma'am?
It's from Steve Jobs, and I always think about this, like, your time is limited, so don't use it living someone else's life.
Can you give us a bit of a background story of the founding of Single Lady Estates and what inspired
Sure.
you to focus on women?
Sure. I had purchased a home in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley, Woodland Hills, over 10 years ago, and had a lot of non-disclosure issues. That was my first single family home. I had purchased other homes, but this was my first single family home, and I was really excited about it. And it was kind of one of those what could go wrong went wrong. And there ended up being 4 court cases over 7 years. I was told by someone on my team that they weren't going to settle with me because I was a woman, thought I'd back down. And which only annoys you more. You're already annoyed and frustrated, and it just makes you dig in your heels that much more. And I was right. And there was a lot of problems with what had gone on with non-disclosure issues. Through these 7 years, it was horrible. There is no way to sugarcoat it. It was absolutely awful. But what you realize, and this goes for men as well as women, you realize that, once you're handed those keys, or even in the process, you are really on your own. For women, we're socialized a different way. So we take authority, we listen to authority differently, we respond to it differently. It's changing with younger generations, but it's still there. Not only do you have to have your credibility reinforced over and over with your own teams, you're fighting with your own teams half the time, trying to say, no, this is what happened, right? Here's the proof kind of thing, along with fighting with the team that you're opposing. So it can be doubly exhausting. What I learned is that you start where you are. For women, you really do need a very strong support system. Friends, family, no one knew the extent of the issues. No one knew the extent of what was going on. Single Lady Estates is that community for people. It was something that I desperately needed and I didn't have. So I created it myself.
When you were going through this process, were you finding that isolation per se was driven by you can't share details about active litigation case with people, as well as whether the pride thing? Well, some people don't see it as a badge of honor that they had to go to litigation. They might feel, the opposite direction. and not it doesn't deride the reason they're going to litigation whatsoever. But is it that, or is it just an unknown experience and going, wow, I haven't dealt with a lawyer before. How does that shape person in that space?
For my personal experience, it's very scary. For people that don't do that often or ever, you don't really know what you're going into and you really rely on your attorneys. And, your attorneys stop getting paid when you settle the case. So I walked into this as the attorneys there to help me. I had good attorneys, but things take a long time. You can't really talk to people about, well, what happened, because there's a little bit of embarrassment. I did everything right. I had people look at the contracts. I relied on my realtor way too much. But I thought I had done everything right. My attorneys are, you did everything right. And yet still this came up. So there's an isolation issue. You are embarrassed about it. And then it goes on for so long. You really can't rely on friends. They're tired of hearing about it. I didn't realize that without even getting into the legal details, which you always discuss with your attorney, the emotional toll it takes on you is awful. You try to mediate everything. It is really the last resort to go into litigation like that. However, if you're sure of your position, which I was, it was provable. So that's what we did. And it ended up that, took 7 years, but there's a lot of vindication in that, and especially for women, because we're not heard a lot.
Interesting. I certainly know what you're saying was true, but I'm absolutely shocked it's still true. And I was wondering, generationally, what's going to undo this?
It's slowly changing. I wasn't even aware of it. I thought this was kind of the path, right? It was a path I'd never gone through. So I'm thinking, okay, this is how these things go. And it was literally my engineer that pulled me aside and said, he was 76 at the time and started telling me all the issues his wife had gone through. And I finally connected the dots like, oh, this really is because I'm a woman. It's changing. It's very slow, right? Because who teaches us? Our elders. But I do see with the younger generation, you know, women my age are teaching their daughters, stick up for yourself. Their mothers and fathers are helping them with finance. They're making sure they call it the she economy. Younger professional women are going to college more, getting degrees, becoming more financially autonomous. In addition to marriage, it's not a replacement for marriage. Although younger generations aren't, they're marrying less. But that's certainly not the goal. It's, what did someone say recently in the press? A man is not a plant. So get yourself educated, get your own money. Even with single lady estates and purchasing a home, you don't have to live in the home the whole time. You can rent it out. You can use it as investment property. You will need that money at one time in your life, whether it is for medical purposes, you get married or you don't get married, you have children, putting them through college, whatever it is, your retirement, you will need that money. Make sure you have control over it. It's only been 50 years since women have been able to get credit in their own name, and women have taken advantage of that. And the great things too is that the dads are right there with their daughters, teaching them about finances, supporting their decisions, and helping them along in career choices. That wasn't the case with older women, where fathers tended to say, hey, she's going to be taken care of. And that's why you've got a lot of older women, maybe 50s and above, that know the general rule, but they lack confidence. They don't have that confidence that they've instilled in their own daughters.
Realty law, property law was changed because of what you did. Can you unpack that?
It was actually the law in the city of Los Angeles during the Great Depression in the 1930s stopped maintaining certain roads. They put them, quote, out of service. What they were supposed to do is block them off, put signs up, um, and the roads were not supposed to be in use because the city could not afford to maintain them. This was common in cities across the country, and it made sense. right? At the time, Great Depression, no one had any money. 36, the city of Los Angeles put roads out of service. In 1937, the California Supreme Court said you can't do that. You built it, you have to maintain it. Most of those out of service roads were in the San Fernando Valley, which was at that point farmland. Most of it. It was more rural. Now it is home to millions of people and subdivisions. As the San Fernando Valley grew in population and started being developed, the developers would take care of these out of service roads. They would bring them up to par. It was part of the contracts that they would sign to get the land. So that took care of the flats, right? In the hills, there's no subdivisions in the hills. These are, onesie twosie houses. They're on smaller roads. What started out as 250 out of service roads became almost 400 out of service road segments. These little roads that have one or two houses on them, and they're in horrific condition. And my action highlighted this and was the reason for some of the issues with the home, because the city didn't maintain streets that they kept in their portfolio but didn't abandon. So after 82 years of not having these roads, they would slop on some slurry here and fill a pothole there. And no one could understand why everyone's streets were so bad. It was this law from 1936. That law was an ordinance. It was sunsetted. All those roads became back on the maintenance rolls. So residents can get those fixed. And a lot of them have been fixed.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It impacted thousands of residents. I would get phone calls. I became like the Aaron Brockovich of roads. I get these random phone calls. How did you do this? This is, complaining about everyone and it's people in the hills, right? So, and they're more expensive neighborhoods generally. So I would get calls from people. I'd be like, wow, I can't believe that person called me. But that's part of what Single A Estates is all about, right? Helping out people, giving them some direction.
But interesting because when you're in a real estate deal and you're utilizing a realtor, at least in our neck of the woods, you're doing an agreement or a deal with the person directly, and realtor might be the add-on feature. Usually, the realtor, you're not meeting the person that's the seller and the buyer. They never meet at the beginning. You never know what the personality is going to be like, irrespective of gender,
Mhm.
whatever. You can both be of the same gender, same race, and "Yeah, I don't like that person," and deal skunked, or the deal, whatever. That's one element. Do you find that gender difference or the gender bias is at the realtor level, the lawyer level, the insurance level, the mortgage level? Is it embedded all the way through the different parts of doing real estate? And if that is a yes, then how do you do single lady estates? Then like, okay, doesn't matter. Here's a buyer, legitimate, and they're looking to buy this property. And how do you sort that out so that there no one's it's a win for everybody and the bias gets removed?
For me, in my experience, it was at the lawyer level and at the realtor level. And I always say that honestly about a single lawyer that was switched out. But the realtor was, being a single woman purchasing a home, and the realtor was female. So we know where to get each other, right? We know our hot points and we know our strengths and weaknesses. That's why it's not a man versus woman. Women do the same thing. I noticed it looking back at the realtor level and dealing with that. Like you said, with the house with the problem, I never met the owner. The house I'm in now, I purchased a new home in another city. The old owner still gets mail here and texts me. I leave mail for them and they look for things, even though they've changed the address 10 times. And that's fine. I have absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. I'm happy with the place. Uh, we were both happy with the deal. It was a win win. So there was no animosity whatsoever.
This is an American act, but it sounds like it's a very important part of the puzzle. Tell me about the Equal
Right
Opportunity
Opportunity
Act.
Act.
Yes.
So that it's really at the tail end of all that civil rights legislation that came down in the 60s and 70s. It was 1974, so it's the 50th anniversary this year, officially on October 28th. And what it did is it eliminated the biases in obtaining credit, right? And that includes gender, race, religion. I mean, I deal with the gender piece. Deal with a very small piece of it, but it was sweeping. And it really leveled the playing field legally. We all know that what happens legally and what happens in actuality can be very different at times. But legally, it leveled the playing field and it gave people legal remedies should they be discriminated against. Before the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, 1974, women had a horrible time getting credit on their own. A lot of times for credit cards, you had to have a male co-signer. It didn't have to be a husband. Could be a cousin, a friend, a neighbor, but you had to have that male signature. That changed, and women have taken advantage of it. The National Association of Realtors started keeping housing statistics for women. I believe it was 1981. But since 1981, women have increased home ownership and are really taking advantage of this right that they didn't always have. It also set the stage for global law changes. In developing countries and in the Middle East, there are very strict laws, and women in certain areas are just not able to purchase property for whatever reason. But it did jumpstart some developed countries. And so it's been a positive influence.
In your research, you uncovered some trends. What are the trends for women approaching home ownership? And does this even affect commercial real estate?
I don't deal with commercial real estate with the technology changes and online shopping. I couldn't really speak intelligently about what's going on there. But for residential real estate, it's really a game changer. And it's interesting the generational changes. You've got younger women who are graduating college, who are getting jobs, and they just don't want to pay rent. It's very simple. You're going to pay someone's rent, either it's going to be your mortgage or someone else's. So they just want a place to live. They start off with a small condo and build equity. Some women move outside of cities to smaller homes to get that jump start, right? And, they're doing it on their own. Some women are lucky enough to have parents that will help them. A lot of them aren't. They have the jobs they have now, and they are doing it on their own. Older women who have the money, let me see here. For older women, it's a different story. A lot of women in their 50s, there's a new graying divorce trend. They're getting inheritance from their parents in centuries past. A lot of that inheritance would go to the male child. Now, for like 95%, it is just split among siblings generally. So women are getting money that way, and they're also in their career and saving money. It's a different mindset. The issue with older women is the confidence, because usually older women had purchased a home with their husband.
So here's a question. I hear the name single lady estates. Is this a metaphor or is there actually a subdivision? Or explain single lady estates to me.
Well, I started it to help with knowledge and confidence for women. You start with what you know, and I'm a single woman, so I start with what I know. Now, we have men. They keep it secret, but we have great information. They listen to us, I think, in secret in their man cave somewhere. But with women, we have also a lot of married women because they end up doing the home stuff themselves anyway. So we kind of have this joke of, if you're single or when it comes to your home, you feel like you are, come join us. We don't discriminate on gender, but our focus is women.
What are the strategies for women to make informed decisions?
We're really based, it's information and resources and community. So when I was thinking about all this, I did a lot of research. The real estate commissions have changed in the United States as of August. Before these commission changes, women were, when they asked about financial knowledge, 42% said they just didn't feel they had the financial knowledge to purchase a home. Part of what we are doing in 2025 is we're providing, classes, online webinars on what to expect, what are the processes, what you need to know, finance, areas, geographical areas, all those types of information. And It's not just a one-way conversation. It's a lot of questions and a lot of interaction. And from that, the other issue is confidence. And confidence really comes with the older women. Women who have money, who can put, who maybe did this the first time with their husbands and then now are unmarried. So a lot of that is confidence building. Starting in 2025, we're going to have classes, series, and support systems you need. Things for, just little things that can go blown out of proportion if you don't have someone there saying, it's not that big of a deal, do XYZ. So it's the community piece, which is, I believe the stat was 52% that women, they will delay homeownership because they don't feel they have that community support. And honestly, there's not a lot of support out there, which is one of the reasons why we exist, because we really feel a need in that niche.
What type of support is out there though? If let's say if it isn't for the women, what support do men get? And the reason I ask that is, if there's a structure, then it just replicate that structure, but care it for the ones that aren't getting that benefit. Is there something that's structured for men? And I say this because recently I went through a mortgage renewal and the lawyer is going through the paperwork, et cetera. And he mentioned something. I get the gist, but what does that mean? What are the implications of that document other than title insurance? Yeah, okay, I get it. Insurance saves my bacon if something goes sideways. But what exactly does that mean, right? Spell it out. Is that just a matter of you hear something and your inner voice goes, I don't quite understand. Keep going.
Men are like, they listen to their inner voice and just keep going. Women, we're more socialized to just believe what you say, whether we get it or not, and then we walk away scratching our heads. For a lot of companies out there, the information is everywhere. We're consolidating that information in one place for one purpose. But again, it's the credibility. Who are you going to believe? Our goal is to be the good housekeeping seal of approval for homeownership. You have a lot of companies, especially companies that deal with contractors and maintenance, their customer are the maintenance companies, not you. Even when I was talking to venture capitalists, they're like, why are you dealing with consumers? Because we're one here and one there. Deal with a company. You don't want to deal with the consumer space. That's a huge problem for consumers. There's nowhere to go. We see it more and more with technology. You can't even call anyone. You send an email and it ends up where you don't get a response. So part of, for example, we had a podcast last week on the difference between home insurance and a home warranty. It was pretty simple, but a lot of people maybe would be embarrassed to ask or don't know where to get the information. So we had on this woman from American Home Shield. She was very good. There was a call to action at the end, but really, what are the nuts and bolts of dealing with a home warranty? What is it? How do you deal with it? For our members, we get a discount on American Home Shield. If you have problems, we want to know because we have a direct line to the person who's in charge of that brand. And that's where having a lot of the information consolidated can help because we can help you if you're having a problem. Now, with home warranties, they are famous for those contractors upselling you. So part of the information that I present, and she's like, I'm so happy you said that, was call the manufacturer, find out the code of your appliance of what's wrong. Spend 20 minutes. And then when you file your claim with the home warranty, put that code in. This is what's wrong with it. Then when the technician tries to upsell you, you're like, no, I called and this is the code. And I know this is what's wrong with it. That's good advice for anyone. Women need that extra push because if you push back, you're perceived differently than a man. So for ladies, we say get a discount at American Home Shield. This is how we recommend you deal with technicians. If there's a problem, let us know.
Bobbie, a large group of our listeners work from home. There's a Gantt chart. They seem to be coming together in the circle. Is there a work from home component to what you're hearing and seeing that ties this in somehow, or are they two totally separate events?
Well, it's different now with the work from home options and hybrid work schedules. More people are looking for home offices, right? And it has to be a little bit more sophisticated than just a bedroom with a desk. You'll see that companies, you have to have certain type of internet, right? So you want to call the internet provider for the area that you want to move in and make sure they have a strong enough signal that they have fiber, cables rather than just, I don't want to say the name of the company because it's the only company in this area people complain about a lot, but you want to make sure you have that like extra fiber. There's an area in Los Angeles between two mountain ranges that is notorious for having really bad Wi-Fi. Why would anyone? And it's a very expensive area, but you're going to have to go through a lot of hoops to get a Wi-Fi that is going to work if you work from home. Why would you buy there? If you can afford a house in that area, you can afford a house almost anywhere. So that's how that working from home, that's how it's impacting. You're usually want a separate room, that you need strong Wi-Fi, and people are asking about it. We've done podcasts and I get questions about that all the time. Check your Wi-Fi and don't leave it to the realtor. The realtor will say something maybe out of opinion and not fact. And you want to make sure if you're going to spend, like in the LA area, at least $1 million for a home, you want all those boxes of must haves checked, especially with California, Los Angeles. When people are moving out of state, people are moving out of the area because they can work at home. Way more important, people will take it for granted when you're coming from a large metropolitan area. I can get my food delivered, I can get Amazon delivered in a day, all these delivery services and Wi-Fi, modern conveniences work in metropolitan areas. They may not work in rural areas. There's a very good chance that they will not work or be what you're used to if you move from a metropolitan area to an exurb.
Yep. That's the
Yep.
American term. Yep.
So yeah, and it's something I actually, when I moved out of the county of Los Angeles, I looked into too.
If there are industries or businesses that want to work with you, single lady estates, either they're focusing, they realize the mark's been missed with that particular market, being women. What are you looking for, and how do they combine forces with you?
Women are a huge emerging market. We're getting more money. Studies from McKinsey and, oh gosh, what's the other? I'm forgetting Morgan Stanley. McKinsey, Morgan Stanley, they're doing studies and consulting for companies because of this whole generational shift in money, slated to peak around 2030. At that point, women will have more money in aggregate than men. And it's for those reasons. It's for inheritance, divorce, careers, just more professional women in the workplace, financial institutions and that are just switching their marketing to market more towards women because we've never really been marketed before. I get people telling me all the time that they might be the breadwinner in the family, yet when they go to the bank with their husband or partner, who does the banker look at? Whether they're male or female, they look at the male because that's kind of how it always was and it's changing. So we are looking for professionals and companies that are savvy, have good services, are credible, and that to help women thrive in this new economy. The goal of equality is not that you leave people behind. The goal of equality is that everyone is kind of in line walking forward together. Women need to catch up. We're doing that. And the rest of the business world has to do that with us.
So one thing that's interesting that everyone gets to pick their name and they're trying to make a metaphor come through. I'm surprised you pick single ladies instead of ladies. I almost imagine somebody getting a cease and desist letter from you if they got engaged.
We started with what we knew, and our focus was single women. I have some very conservative friends that are part of this because they laugh. They're like, I do everything. And it's like, great. And honestly, for even the very, very conservative friends of mine that come into this, they don't work. They're at home when the technicians come and the technicians deal with them. So, and the technicians just see dollar signs. sometimes when women answer the door. Even for air conditioning, there's an air conditioning example. We wrote a book on air conditioning and systems. And if a technician comes to the door and asks, "Where's your compressor?" What's around the back? If you can say that without delay, they know you know something, man or woman, and they will be less likely to try to pull one over on you. A little knowledge can go a long way. And that's really what we're trying to do. You don't need to be an expert in everything. A lot of it is just being confident, knowing a little bit, being confident about it, and having the support of a community of like minded people. And that's really what we bring to the table.
Something I like asking our guests, I'd love to hear a success story or a horror story that really showcases this for you.
There's been a few. I get phone calls about the roads in Los Angeles. I'm like the road counselor. Like I said before, like the Aaron Brockovich of roads. I know the manual. Like, you know how wide they should be. People shouldn't have to know all this, right? You live in a city and the social contract is, I'm going to buy a home here. I'm going to pay you taxes. And one of the basic things, one of the basic services that you're going to provide me is a street without potholes. People don't want to know about this unless something happens. I get calls from all sections of Los Angeles about these roads and the potholes. One person was complaining that they fixed it, but 2 years later, it's back to the same thing because they do such a bad job. With those type of calls, I spend time answering their questions, telling them where to get the information. That will be online. This was before our platform was up. We have a platform that's launching on Monday at the 50th anniversary of the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. But prior to the platform, a lot of it was just me talking to people about it and telling them where to, talk to this person, you need to say this. Or the misinformation that the city of LA gives its residents. One of the other really cool things that we've been able to do very early on is help push it's more awareness of an issue with the Van Nuys Airport with a woman that does fantastic advocacy. And because of my involvement within certain boards of the city, I was able to help push what she wanted to get through. So she's not done yet. That's been a nice, proud moment. And the other issue for maybe a dozen people is when they've realized they're going to have to go to court, like help them organize. They've all had lawyers. So it's kind of like, ask your lawyer this. Be sure you know the answer to that. I don't give legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, but here's some questions so you can get the information you need to make that decision.
Bobby, if you were to do a sum check of everything that we've touched on, what are like a few key critical points you'd want to share with our female audience?
Okay, number one, if you're female and you're single, even if you're married or have, partner or in relationship, don't rely on your realtor for everything. Get educated. Sometimes it's hard because there's a lot of stuff online and everyone's trying to sell you something. I get it. Do the best you can. Single lady estate, that's what we're here for. And that's why we really partner with credible people. And the whole idea is giving you access to the resources you need to make the decisions that are best for you. We're not invested in your decision. We're invested in making sure you have the information you need to make the decision. Please do your own research. Don't rely on reports. Like buying a house, you're going to get agrographical report, all these reports. They're A for your realtor and the seller. It is nothing more than that. Go and do your own research. For example, if you've got your eye on a house, go there several different times of day, during the weekday, during the weekend, see what is going on. Talk to some neighbors, right? For the reports, there are now on Zillow and Redfin, you can get a flood report. You can get air quality. And they estimate future, right? Because of climate change. So might be 104 to 3 days this year, but in 30 years, it's going to be 18 days or stuff like that. So just please, please spend the time and do the research. It will save you money. It will save you emotional stress like you wouldn't believe.
Bobbie, if somebody wants to hear more or do more, how do they get a hold of you?
Go to our website, singleladyestates.com. You can join for free. You get access to our podcast, be part of the community chat. For more of our resources and discounts and everything, it's a paid membership of $79 a year. So it's affordable. And part of what we want to do in the long term is advocacy work through the local and state governments. So the more paid members we have, the more effective we'll be. So that's my personal plug on, to get a membership. But you don't have to, you can join for free and you'll still get something out of it. We still will honor that. So yeah, that's how you get a hold of me. I'm actually on the platform. You can message me and there's forms on our website. If people are interested in collaborating with us, we're always looking for good partners, companies and professionals. Just send us a form. We actually respond pretty quickly.
Bobbie, what areas do you service? Do you service just California? Do you service continental U.S.?
The US, just primarily because of the contacts, the contacts that we have and what we know. However, this will hopefully go overseas and we've got some good connections in the UK. But right now, it's all over the United States. Each state, there's little tricks to the laws in each state. And then there's different layers. So we're a US based company. We actually have members that are in Canada. Also, in the future, we hope to, depending on what our members want, that's the vision, is that this will just help women everywhere.
I want to say thank you to Bobbie Wasserman, my co-host Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. If this has piqued your curiosity and you want to find out how to establish yourself, getting everything from, you get a real estate deal, you're not finding you're getting the right answers, to want to understand more about what you should do to become more aware, reach out to Bobbie.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, Wayne@motivateuca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter U.ca, or his website motivateu.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people: Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host; Javan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space; then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motivate You Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer: please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.